In our life, at some point, we all feel some sort of mental or physical pain. And although the pain is invisible, we can get so absorbed in our own world that we just don't see the suffering of the others around us. Question is, how do we deal with life's challenges? My name is Ian Churchward, and I'd like to tell you my story of living with chronic pain and a disease called CRPS, Chronic Regional Pain Syndrome. For me, staying clean and moving forward and not stopping was the only solution I had. But I have to say one of my biggest saviors was definitely music. Chronic pain may have slowed me down, but I have too many new and interesting things yet to discover, and I know I'm not done performing yet. I was born an army brat in BC. Finally, in 1968, we moved and settled in Barrie. It was here where I could be found in the ball diamonds or in the soccer pitch or even playing hockey. But most of my time, I was downtown flipping through records. This was my scene. In the world of rock and roll, the temptations of drugs and alcohol are sadly too connected. The lifestyle and temptations are always lurking in the dark corners.
Do you know what I'm missing from this album? The cover.
My friend Scott Maxton knows this all too well.
Well, I think I discovered, I had problems at an early age, probably about 14, 15 years old. Basically, all I wanted to do was become a drummer, and, school got in the way, and I quit a couple of times, and my mom would march me back, and I turned to things to make me feel good, alcohol. My grades started slipping. I became isolated. It was hard to talk to people. I would be in a room full of people that, my family, loved ones, and I would feel completely alone. This is my grandfather back in like 1942 setting up his trap.
That is cool.
Music was an outlet for me, and I come from a family of drummers. My grandfather played drums, my uncle played drums in a punk band, and I started playing drums, and it was a great place for me to hide, was behind the drum kit, right? So I started playing in bands and whatnot, and things were great. A lot of good times, but I think, my bandmates were into the playing, and they were there to play gigs and not to babysit.
That's a wicked shot there.
That's a nice shot there. I like that.
I like that one, yeah. This Mick Rock guy. To be honest, I really don't know if I'd be here without the support of my wife Jasmine and my family. Chronic pain debilitates you, and it pushes you to your mental limit. I recall a night shortly after my surgery. I was sobbing uncontrollably as I tried to say to Jasmine that this is not me living in this shell anymore.
Basically, it was, me getting as much knowledge as possible to help him through it, and, for him not to walk alone with this. Like I said, to see someone you love go through ongoing pain and suffering, it's really, really hard, and you almost have to walk that journey with them so they don't feel alone. And, it affects the whole family. It affects everybody.
The problem with nerve pain is it's persistent, and it's very, very hard to treat. So the pain becomes perpetual, like it perpetuates, as opposed to if you broke your toe, over time that pain would start to dissipate. Whereas with this, the pain actually perpetuates, and in some cases it gets worse over time. It doesn't get better.
There's been a lot of changes, with the vehicle and with also performing. He used to, jump almost like this high in the air, you give it your all. And music is a beautiful thing. Music was his life. And, you don't have to jump, almost 3 feet in the air to still be a part of it.
For over 10 years, fellow friend and musician Chris Naylor has been my sidekick with the Dead Starlets. He completely understands my situation and has been there to support my struggles on and off the stage.
Live-wise, Ian was a very energetic singer, very active, jumped around a lot, very entertaining, very dramatic. Even in the clothes they wear, he and I both didn't like the bands that looked like they just got off their job at a gas station and wandered up and played, or they just came from a volleyball game or something. Then once the surgery happened, it was really tough for him, I think. The fact that just the mobility issues alone, not being able to get around and be out and about and around people, because he's a very social guy. So the energy level in performing definitely went down through no fault of his own. It just happens. I think that would have been pretty tough, and I think did weigh on him a lot. I think that understandably led to some depression and things like that.
I always had this nervous anticipation of performing. But for others, like Sarah, this anxiety can be devastating.
It's a very interesting experience for someone with anxiety and panic disorder to play music live. The very first time I went to my very first jam, I'll never forget this. I was sitting down at the table, I was shaking the entire time, and my face hurt. And I'm like, why is my face hurting? Because I'd been grinding my teeth so hard with anxiety. And this was just a jam, but I was absolutely terrified. And when I actually sat down and played and got a great response and amazing support from the people who ran the jam and the people who were there, it was absolutely euphoric. And that immediately calmed me down, and I guess got the right chemicals working, so I felt very at peace afterwards. That over time, it really helped me manage my anxiety. My entire life as a child, my mum would give me a hard time about the fact that I was always moving my leg up and down. And I didn't realize it was part of my anxiety, and I was just constantly buzzing. And it wasn't because it felt good, it was bad, negative, anxiety-based energy. And when I started playing drums, that went away.
Sure, did you want to send that out to anybody?
No, I just like it.
Okay, have a great weekend.
Anxiety has no boundaries. It has no schedule or warning. For radio host Amy Oust, she knows these battles, and all too well. Her anxiety is real.
Within the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a struggle more than ever. I think I've always been an anxious person, but the panic attacks and the wanting to, be insular and not be social, it's almost crippling at times. And especially given my profession, I have a social job. And so when I'm in the middle of a panic attack and I'm on the radio, that's, yeah, that's hard, to say the least.
And that's the thing about March break. It's only a break if you're a kid.
Even though I have these struggles and sometimes it hits me out of the blue, I get to listen to music all day long. I can put my headphones on and I can kind of lose myself in that. And there's something calming about being able to do that. And I'm thankful for that. And it's probably helped me stay off medication because I can immerse myself into a quieter headspace by, just putting my headphones on.
It was early in high school years where I discovered my punk and weird clothes. I remember one day sitting in the library, I was asked to sing with a friend's band and to do some Pistols and Teenage Head in front of over 1,000 people. This was my first taste of band, and I suppose I never really stopped.
And this, the Eastview Cafeteria stage, is where Puke and the Dry Heaves performed their first and their very last show.
Julian Michaud has been suffering from mental illness for years, but he has also decided to make his illness known and shared. Julian has solid support from his friends and the music community, but it's here in the music where he finds his true healing.
I find that with mental health and the age that I think I recognized the problems starting to exist was when I started reaching close to 30 years old. And things started happening sort of a lot quicker. They went sort of downward spiral. You know, I lost my house, a couple other things like that. And basically music for myself was one of the things that pulled me out of it, including doing as much homework and self-help to myself of information, going to hospital, doctors, psychologists, things like that, to try to figure out what the problems are. And then in turn, realizing that it was very deeper than I thought, and it came in sort of, I realized as I was younger it was growing, and it never really got dealt with, right?
So you got your big plans.
Music has definitely saved my life. It's when I have always had, you know, bad days, or I've always had, you know, don't know what's happening, why is this happening to me, I have chosen to write music. When my mood is in that situation, I'm kind of, you know, I feel, what do I do? So I run to music because it's something that is attached to me and it makes me feel better, or at least keeps me focused. And then in the end, what I get out of a return from it is basically that energy back, that feeling back, which allows me to fight and allows me to become stronger and be confident and be, you know, successful with my own well-being.
So many of us come to terms with our demons later on in life. But for Alyssa Wright, she realized at an early age that she needed something to hold on to.
I think it was when I was a teenager that I started to consciously realize that I needed to have an expressive outlet. In my early teens, it became quite clear that talking about any family issues or any mental health issues or anything like that was definitely not supposed to happen. So I found myself writing a lot of songs about hypothetical, purely hypothetical situations, which resonated with my own truth, but I could deflect it as, oh, I'm just writing random songs. I think performance for the longest time was a bit of a love-hate relationship. Because yes, I loved the music and I loved being able to immerse myself in the music and get lost in it and express myself in it. But the idea of being seen performing was very frightening for a very long time. I think there's probably some truth to the stereotypes of who picks what instrument, because hiding behind a cello that covered my entire body was probably not a mistake.
I've been very fortunate to perform in many iconic venues and shared the stage with so many talented and wonderful people. But I guess I'd have to say opening for the Misfits was probably my biggest pinch me moment. Never in my life would I've ever dreamt of that ever happening. A well-known local musician and songwriter, Ed Moritz, has experienced many life changes, physical, emotional, and career-wise.
I was a United Church minister for 20 years, and in the last part of those 20 years I started to seriously burn out. Fell into a depression, chronic depression. I started to see trees as opportunities, and at that point my former spouse and I had a talk, and we really needed to get treatment for myself. So I went to Homewood for 2 months. I had a great support network, and included in that support network was my ventures into music. I'd always been a musician, but that's the time when the music really became important to me.
Last night, summer in the city.
Edward suffered a heart attack in 2017. But again, it was music that helped pull him through.
Lights all faded and the band played loud. I wrote a song about my heart attack, and I called it Boogieing with the Reaper. And so that provided a little bit of a grim, lighthearted touch to that incident. But the healing process was the time away, was the time to reflect, was the time just to be in a place where I wasn't working at my job, where I wasn't doing anything, just being still. The music was a big part of that as well. You and I.
If there's anyone who can relate to pain and healing, it is my friend Andy Gautsy. This man is a true inspiration. He is a promoter, a musician, sound tech. These are just a few of his many talents. But Andy is a fighter. He's battled addiction and more recently, his recovery from a devastating car accident.
My girlfriend at the time was driving us home from work. I was sleeping, and she drove into the back end of a parked tractor trailer at 120K. So that basically decimated the vehicle, me included. She walked away with 4 stitches, and I was hospitalized for the last 8 months. It's been a month since I've been out of the hospital.
Andy suffered a C2 spine fracture. His internal organs were rearranged. He has a steel rod inserted in his left leg, 6 broken ribs, 2 punctured lungs, and 12 surgeries later, the loss of his right leg above the knee.
That night when I closed my eyes, because the pain was actually too much, I thought I was closing my eyes for the last time, which is why after the 2 weeks, when I woke up, I was very excited to just be alive. They told me about my leg, I could care less about that. In the hospital, headphones are your best friend, really. To keep that positive attitude, I've found personally music does a lot of that for me.
I would never wish this upon anybody. He's had a really tough time with this, and it must be hard. But at the same time, he just plugs away and keeps going and looking forward to new adventures, which I think is amazing. I'm very proud of the way he's coming through this. I think for Ian, what's helped him get through this a lot is his support system with his wife, Jazz. He's had some really good support from her.
Ian doesn't feel frustrated that, okay, I have to be better, I have to be, not sick. I can be who I am, and people will love me and support me and be there for me, and I don't have to put on a mask.
My daughter, she has helped me through many a panic attack, and if I didn't have her there, God only knows how that would have gone. And I think it's incredibly important that people know what you're going through, because they cannot help you, and if they love you, they're going to want to help you.
Oddly enough, anxiety has played a role in actually bringing us closer together. It's not only really cool to have the mom who plays the drums and is like this sick rocker chick, but having, the mom who's strong enough to admit that, she deals with anxiety. She comes off as a really confident lady, I find. Like, look at this, my mom creates music with things that cause her internal, pain and, fear. And that's honestly just been a really amazing experience, and she's been a really big role model for me.
I know.
I'm really fortunate because my partner's a musician. So he'll, he even when he sits down and just kind of noodles around on the guitar or whatever, it's nice, right? But it is important to have somebody in your life that understands, and all the more if they have, if they have struggled in the past or whatever, then they'll know what you're going through. But sometimes it's just, you need to have that support from the inside of your home as well.
If you don't have the support, you die. You might not die physically right away, but you'll certainly die sooner physically if you don't have that kind of support. And that's as blatant as I can get. If you don't have the support for your support group when you're going through mental illness, it's hell. It's pure, unadulterated hell and misery.
I always used to think that asking for help was a sign of weakness, right? But it takes a lot of courage to reach out. And finally, me realizing, not people telling me that I had a problem, me realizing that I had a problem and that I needed to change.
Sometimes you have a broken leg, you go get help, right? With something that's not firing the brain or something's not working or your health that way, there's lots of outlets now that don't feel afraid. Go for it, try it. Just make sure that you're doing with people that you can see that are trustworthy, that have experience in the business, and that are willing to reach out as well too. Because the worst thing you can do is to reach out to the wrong people, and it can really turn you off, and then you suffer more and more.
I spent a lot of time before this helping people, and then having to be helped, it was something that I had to swallow, and I still don't like it to this day. I don't like having to accept help, but you have to learn to do it or you're going to be a miserable person. You know, you got to accept the help from the people that care.
After my diagnosis, the wind was certainly taken out of my sails for a while. Pain took over my ambition, and I knew I couldn't do the performance that I once could.
How delightful that you have arrived.
Then a door opened to try theater, and I must say that the challenge, although new and rather tough, was something I needed to push myself and to keep the creativity flowing.
Acting and getting on stage and doing a little bit of acting, really brought him to a next level. I think he learned a lot about who he was. It's okay if you're not the person you once were, but now you're this person.
In your throat. Cough. I take it from
The sun was shining through the haze of the mountain.
Going through some pretty awful times a few years ago, and I had to practically drag myself to a trio rehearsal thinking, I don't want to see anyone, I don't want to talk to anyone, I just want to sit in my room and mope. And I got to the rehearsal, we started playing, and suddenly 3 hours were over, and I felt great because I didn't have enough brain space to feel like moping. I think surreptitiously also got stuff out of my system that needed to be expressed once again. So it's pretty special.
Don't go. When I'm inside the music, when I'm living inside the song, when I'm sharing a story within the song and somebody in the audience is taking out a Kleenex because in some deep way it's connected, that is what I'm living for.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. Could I put a song on?
I would love to play you a song. We all have that one song that is your song. It's your favorite song. Those lyrics are so bang on. Or maybe there's a song that comes on the radio or comes on your iPod or whatever at just the right time, and it's exactly what you need to hear. And that's why music is so important, because it reaches you on many different levels.
Music is just universal. The audience can hear songs and identify with it. There'll be people in the audience who might have substance abuse issues who are hearing this song and how that person's dealing with it, and they might identify with it. So yeah, as a lot of musicians say, music makes the world go round.
On behalf of Glowing Hearts Give and Get, I want to welcome each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here today and supporting our wonderful cause.
He's one of those people who needs projects, he needs to stay busy. So I think that's been one of the hardest things with this issue he's had, is just staying busy and staying relevant, and I know that's really hard for him in terms of getting over that feeling of not having a place in the world or not having something to do. Ian needs to do something, and the world needs Ian. He needs to be doing this kind of thing.
Welcome, Santa.
Everybody's in a different spot when they find that place in music. For me, I'm sitting on a lake in a boat, kicking back, and that actually brings me back to my old man. My father passed away. He was only 60 years old. We got a place up there, and that was one of his favorite things to do, was throw on an album and crank it so the whole lake would hear it. And that's where I am when I'm in that real serene place.
My dad just died in October, and it was pretty tough, and I couldn't really think about anything other than my dad and my family and getting back to my instrument, because that's my go-to when I feel bad, when I feel like everything else is out of control. I can always play, and it helps me balance.
Teenage Kicks. Another cool one to try sometime too.
One of the many things I look forward to recently is jamming with the lads. The camaraderie with friends and playing music is a comfort zone. It's where pain is put on the back burner, and this is where I belong.
Every moment is precious, and you know, whether you're walking the walk that you used to or walking a new walk, and you're surrounded by, you know, your friends and your family. Life's a beautiful thing, so I look forward to the future with him every moment.
I can honestly say that if I hadn't had music in my life, I would either not be here or I would be a quivering mass in the corner. I think it gave me a thread to hang on to in some of the worst times, and it also gave me a way to help process it and work my way through a lot of the issues that I had to deal with.
Like, rock on and give it all that you've got. What have you got to lose? You know, music is a wonderful thing. Spread it, share it, and I wish everyone all the best.
Since this accident has happened, it's allowed me to really look at myself, take time that I normally wouldn't have, and I'm actually happier now than I was before. I'm much happier, and I am so excited for the future, and I am so excited for what every day brings. So I've got some big plans, that's for sure. There's a lot I plan to do.
If your head is not on straight, you cannot heal. You need to surround yourself with positive people. Challenge yourself each and every day to try something new. But most of all, use the power of music.